So hello and welcome to the New Gig podcast. I'm your host, Glen Hodgson, and today I'm delighted to be joined by content producer Lisette Ferreira Pinho. How are you doing, Lisette?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm feeling great. Good
Absolute
to be
pleasure
here.
to have you here. So
Yes.
give us a little bit of a background on yourself, what you're doing at the moment and what takes you to this place now.
Yes. Currently, I started a new position at Talent 360 Media, which is a media company focusing on brands within HR, recruitment, talent management, and young professionals and career advice. So it's actually 3 different brands. There's one also called Branchen that's specific towards, okay, this is a word I should have looked up in English, but bemanning.
Recruitment and employment services.
Yeah. Um, mm, so that's what I'm doing now. And that's my current occupation.
Excellent. And you've been doing in the past a bit of project work as well, taking activities for a shorter period of time. How was that experience and how did that work out for you?
Yes, well, in the beginning of my career, I worked as a consultant for several years, different kind of consultant firms. And it's been, it's been a way to kind of kick off my career in marketing and media and communications, and it's giving me a broad experience and being able to work with several companies. So it's been good. Very I've learned a lot during this time.
Excellent. So it's given you sort of a way in. It's been a way to gain valuable expertise,
Yes.
knowledge, and practical experience in different places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
for sure.
good. That's good. That's interesting to know that. And what are some of the positives and negatives of being a consultant? Would you say, Lisette, at the moment?
I'd say if we start maybe with the negatives and then go to the positives. The
Yep.
negatives, I would say, would be that there's always, when you're a consultant, there's always, I think, a sense of most of the cases. Well, I guess it's usually it's for a limited time. It might be 6 months, it might be a year and just product employment, or it might be for a specific task. So you kind of know that you're under evaluation, and you don't know if the company has the need for further for you further or your services. So there's always a sense of being replaceable and not really belonging to the core group. I'd say is one of the negatives. Usually that's the case. Because you're not really on the staff that's been there for years and that's always on the payroll. You're a little bit on the side, I'd say. And then there's like a variety. Some companies are really good in including consultant and really value them, and some are maybe not so much, and there's a high there's many coming and going, so it's that can vary. But on the positive side, you get to see you get a lot of insights from different companies, different culture, different how do you say, like different like maybe different industries, like retail, or maybe work with in the service in like different types of industries. And that's really good, I think, to have work with different types. And you also experience different types of cultures and like business culture. How it's like, so you can quite easily adapt when you come to a new place, because you're used to adapting and you're used to kind of blend in and kind of find your expertise needs to go, and kind of how you can contribute. And then there's also usually you're higher paid when you're a consultant, and you can earn more money. And you really, so that's a good way also, like, because it's quite expensive to hire consultants, but then also the demand might be higher on you because you're there to do a specific thing.
Yep.
So there are a few perks, but there are also like a few downsides, I'd say.
Absolutely. And I'm really interested in the element that you raised there, this fact that companies and organizations are still not very good at integrating consultants into their workforce. They're kind of treated as second-class citizens. They're not really properly integrated into the running of the organization, properly to the detriment of the consultant, but also the organization that probably doesn't know how to use them efficiently.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say that. And I think it can be different from company to company depending on how you're using consultant. Is it like for a specific department, or is it something that you're doing across all the departments, maybe in IT and in customer service also? Is it only marketing? Is it on the product management side? And then so I'd say it's I think it's also something you can't maybe completely get away from, because a consultant is there for maybe a period of time, and it's not on the like it's not in on the ordinary staff. But anyway, I think there's much work to be done here, especially when the gig business and freelance are like, we're working more towards like global companies. The trend is that they want more consultants and more freelancers for specific task to really nail the expertise for when they need it, and not just have it sitting around when it's not really needed, but maybe for specific launches or task. They can hire a consultant, and then it's super important to make them feel valued, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes consultants, it's not just a one-off task. They may be brought back in to do different things. And like with every partner and every subcontractor or project worker, building those human relationships is very important, and in the interests of the organization, probably.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a good comparison you're doing with partners and investors, because they're usually treated really well, and you want to make sure that the relationship is really, but maybe so it shouldn't be. I'm not saying that a consultant is a partner in the company, but it should be, it should be valued. And I think actually more and more are realizing this, since it's becoming more common now these days, and it's not only like young people that freelance anymore, or students that doing it part-time. It's actually a career for really, professionals in their sector. So
I think this is a real change, and you highlight this, I think, very well. The fact that millennials and Gen Z, for them, it's something that they think about very, very strongly. But also older workers as well, who are getting more into the element that they can be a consultant, they can be more flexible, choose more what they do with their time. So when, where, and how they work is in a new approach, and be able to develop that. So it's the older and the younger members of the workforce who are seeing the benefits of this this style of work.
Yeah, for sure, and it's an interesting development in society.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and it's the policy, and the companies have to adapt to that, and probably think of a consultant strategy that they need to develop to get the most out of these workers. Because at the end of the day, it's the value that they can create for the organization, which I guess is the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Excellent. And what would you say about the digitalization trend that we're seeing more and more, transforming society, but also the economy and the way we work as well? What's your views? Because you've got sort of the overview from sort of the media publishing sector. You see a lot of things happening, and also a lot of across a number of different sectors as well. So could you say a little bit about some of the things that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, one thing we're seeing is that now there's not only a demand for high digitalization and automatization. How do you say that? Automatization? Yeah.
Automation.
Automatic.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, automation.
Hard word to say. No, in the past, it's been more in demand for larger companies, like big companies, to have it in place. But now that demand is going down to smaller companies as well, and smaller actors in all types of business. So everybody wants to be automatized, and it's something that's going down now, and in not only big companies, but actually all companies. And I think one thing to that is easy to forget is that when you work in Sweden, in Stockholm, we are very highly on the like on the developed, on the technical side here in, I guess, in the Nordics, but in particularly in Sweden, we have a high, we're very digitalized, like our finances and everything. But if you look at other markets, it's not the same, really. So I think, but that trend is coming everywhere. But I think it's easy to kind of look at only what you have in your own market. And I'm not saying that nobody else is digitalized, but it's hard. Like it's a trend. It's not as like a country. It can vary, but it's definitely on the rise everywhere, and it's putting I guess pressure on the CEOs, and to kind of really be up to date with everything. And now the AI is taking over, this app that everyone is talking about right now, that can actually do my job a little bit, right? And so all of those are more integrated now in the day-to-day work. And of course, as we all know, the pandemic kind of speeded up all the digital possibilities and the way of working everywhere. Now it's kind of a way to, get back into office work and seeing face-to-face, or to continue with the hybrid solutions that are also very functioning, but then on the loss for other things, as company culture and etc.
Absolutely. And would you say that corporate culture is changing to adapt to these new trends as well as that, or is it still something that needs to catch up to the technological realities?
I think it's a little bit in, like, I wouldn't say it's a little bit lost right now, but I think it's in between. I know that, if I'm not wrong, Spotify, they changed their policy to kind of include, like, you can work all like hybrid work.
Absolutely.
And actually, I think I read something about this, like an article, that it's actually been increasing the satisfaction among their employee, or the result, or something like that.
Heard that.
And I mean, I think it's, for me personally, I think it's good to have a mix. I think many people experience that it's been working very well for them to kind of get the life to kind of work, like life schedule with families and everything, to be able to work from home. But I think a lot of CEOs and think that, how can we build company culture, when we're not seeing each other, when we're not meeting? And I think it's a valid point, actually. And for me, I like to be able to combine it, like to be able to work from home and then also be at the office, because I think it's important to have both. And I think it's great that we can have both, but to kind of go one way or another, I think it's a mistake. I think it's good to find a good balanced middle way with it. Because I think you shouldn't exclude the way, like, to meet face to face. It's something special happens when we do, and we're still living, breathing humans, and we need to meet other people. And it's so much that can be translated when you actually see the person's, like if you're doing a pitch, or if you're having a meeting, like, so much of communications is actually our body language, tone of voice. And it cannot even be transferred through a screen all the time. So I think it's I think it will actually be that companies now will start to find a way to make everybody happy and kind of combine it. So I think it's going to take a while, but I think that's going to be the way forward.
I think so too, and I think that you're absolutely right that nothing replaces the physical meeting, and as you say, sort of the non-verbal communication as well as what's said. And screens are great for sort of filling in the gaps, but I think particularly given the coronavirus period where travel and physical meetings were not allowed, that the value of this sort of human contact and face-to-face communications has taken on an even more level of value than maybe it had in the past. But you said it correctly. We are sociable creatures, and human beings do work on personal relationships and building groups and having sort of the personal contact. So I think that's something that needs to be brought in, and probably as you say, a mix is probably the right approach to have. So there can be a bit of remote work, a bit of physical meetings, and to get the best benefits out of this for everyone.
Yeah, and it's exciting. And I mean, I don't know if we wouldn't have the pandemic, would we be here now? I don't think so. I think we would kind of work towards it, but I think we would maybe have been here in a few years.
Yes.
But so it's so interesting that this happened, and gonna be exciting.
I think it's a positive out of a negative. I really do, Lisette. And as you say that, I think it's probably we've come kind of 20 years in 2 years, given the sort of the setup that we've had, because we've been forced to use the technology, use it in different ways. And of course, we see the new products and services, digital products and services that have been invented over recent times to facilitate this kind of remote and hybrid work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're in a good place, and your prognosis for the future is probably then a bit a mixture of both the old style traditional ways of doing things, but also using technology and having new methods of communicating and working to be able to deliver value.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's super important to look forward and like embrace the new trends, because that's what ultimately changes our society also. And it's important to explore that. But I think it's also important to not rule out the good old ways. I don't know if it's a bit weird to say, but you know what I mean, like, because there's so much in the simple solutions, so much that's actually and traditions, and you know, that we can stand on, that's been working for hundreds of years when it comes to communication. So sometimes it's the simple things that can actually be the key, and sometimes it's moving forward and transforming the way of working. So
well, fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences, but also your knowledge of the sector, where things are going, what's happening today. And is there anything further you'd like to add, Lisette, well, before we close things off?
No, I thank you so much for having me to this little talk. And I think it's really interesting what's happening with the gig and freelance market right now. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes and attitude towards it. Like also because it's possible to hire people that's not in the same city, and it's possible to hire somebody from across the globe who can work with like companies and employers in another country and in another market. And I think that's also one of the reasons that it will increase and also because of the economy is a bit on the low side now, and companies want to be able to kind of pull when it comes to their resources. So that's also, I think, something that can really be valuable and a factor. So it's exciting times for sure.
It really is exciting times, and really appreciate you spending the time and sharing your thoughts, and look forward to hearing more from you soon, Lisette.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much for having me. All right, bye.